Here are 3 reasons why to subscribe to Fridge Financials on YouTube. Number 1, it is free, which is the best price that you can pay for this kind of content. 2, I am completely transparent with all of my investments. And number 3, I have a variety of educational videos every single week. Now let's get on with the video.
What is up, YouTube, and welcome back to another Fridge Financials video. And in today's video, as you can see on my screen, is an interesting topic, but also terrifying at the same time. So if you're excited for today's video, or you're nervous like me while you're reading this, make sure that you smash the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Feel free to, it is free of charge, of course, and turn on the bell notifications for all future video uploads. If you're not subscribed and you're watching this video, just tell me why, so I can at least know, like, hey, Fridge, your voice is annoying, or hey, Fridge, you sound stupid. You know, at least be honest with me so I can know what I can do to do better. Leave me any kind of feedback, and if you love the content, please show support down in the comment section. I love talking to you guys and talking finance, so hopefully that can bring some new things to you and bring you to some more awareness. So let's dive right into this video here. So there's 7 things the middle class won't be able to afford in the next 5 years. My girlfriend sent me this video the other night, and I was reading it, and I was like, this is kind of scary, but some of them aren't really too surprising for me. But I think it's one of those things where if you don't think about it, you don't try to plan for it. So hopefully this video, you'll be able to start planning for it and be like, you know what, I'm gonna start planning for this or for this. So shout out to my girlfriend for sending me this video, or sending me this article, so I can make a video for you guys, because I feel like you guys should see this and read about it. Alright, so first things first, in case you don't know what middle class is, Investopedia defines middle class as here are your income ranges right here based on your household size. So single, 2, 3, 4, 5, here's your ranges, and the medium household income based on that. So if you fall into these categories for single, 2 people, 3 people, so on and so forth, you are considered middle class, which, you know, is actually a great amount of us. If you look here, over about half the population is considered middle class. And then again, less than that is upper income or upper middle class, however it is you want to call it. I don't really know the difference between upper middle class and upper class. So, so if you're watching this video, you might fall into one of these sections here, the middle class. And even if you're low income, this is also a video to watch, I think, no matter what, because if middle class can afford it, obviously they're going to be saying that lower class also will be able to afford it because they're lower in the income brackets. So, running through this here, I'm going to jump right into it. Extended family trips was the first thing they listed here. So extended family trips, again, with the pandemic and lockdowns and everything else, you know, nobody was really traveling anywhere. And as soon as things started opening up, I think we all know, myself included, that people just wanted to travel. People wanted to get out of their apartment, wanted to get out of their house, wanted to get out and get some fresh air, go somewhere else, have a new experience, just because they've been cooped up in their place for so long. You know, some of them were for a couple months, some of them were for maybe a couple of years. So people started traveling out. So as the pandemic was happening, the prices were really, really low for traveling and leisure and everything else because no one was doing it. Things start to open back up again. You see price increases here. And if you want to take a look at this NerdWallet chart here, we can take a look down at where is it right here. So right here, so look, the travel price index. Again, here's your pandemic times of the COVID and shutting down. And as you can see, things are open up again, and we start to have this increase in basically the travel prices compared with pre-pandemic levels here. So we're at a high of 18% compared to pre-pandemic. Right now we're sitting at a 12% increase, which I know you think isn't that bad, but again, 12% more. This is just one thing that you're paying 12% more on compared to the pre-pandemic levels. And I love that this article from NerdWallet breaks down everything. Airfare. You look at airfare from the pre-pandemic to January of this year, down 3%. Not too bad, actually. I'm kind of shocked at that one, to be honest. But I mean, I'll take it. Paying 3% less for an airplane ticket round trip from before lockdown till afterwards, till right now, isn't too bad. But look at this. Hotel rooms up 17.1% from pre-pandemic lockdowns to January of this year. 17.1%. You know, before the lockdowns and the prices were fluctuating up and down, you know, when everything was fine before the pandemic, now you're paying 17% more over the last 4 years. So you're going up an average of about, you know, 4%, maybe a little bit more than that, just on hotels. And I don't even want to get started with the Airbnb ones, because the Airbnbs have some crazy fees, which are cleaning fees, maintenance fees, and your Airbnb's prices can become absolutely ridiculous. So I'm sure those numbers are probably around here, if not already higher. I wouldn't be surprised. Rental cars up 16.5%. If you're flying overseas, if you're traveling across to a different country, you obviously aren't bringing your car, you're flying. So you're going to have to get somewhere to go. Either you buy Ubers, which Ubers, I don't know if they're existing in all over different countries. And if you need a rental car, it's up 16.5% from pre-pandemic. Not good. And again, that also doesn't factor in things like gas and everything else. Like it's insane. You know, I remember like my car broke down during the pandemic and it was impossible to get a rental car while my car was being fixed. So, you know, having them be up 16.5% pre-lockdown is absolutely mental. Restaurant prices. Obviously, you probably aren't going to be cooking that much if you're traveling overseas, going across to a hotel. Up 25.6% from the pre-pandemic to now. January of this year, I should say, 25.6% increase. That's insanity that you're paying so much more. Obviously, they have these priced in because of, you know, supply and demand issues and labor and everything else. But like, that's just, I see that number, I'm like, wow, 25.6. Movies, theaters, and concerts. If you're going somewhere to go see some entertainment while you're overseas, up to almost 20%. So these numbers here don't lie. This is all pre-pandemic, so you can't be like, whoa, it's the pandemic. This is pre-pandemic till a month ago, and these are the increases that we're seeing in travel. So if you're thinking about planning on traveling to go anywhere, I would strongly encourage you to start having some money put aside, maybe put it into a high yield savings account where you can get some money on add on into interest. It's probably gonna talk about building your budget, you know, for your vacation for traveling in 2024. This article does it. It's definitely some really good things to consider. And they also talk about, you know, how you should have these things weighed. You spend like 29% on flights, 13, 30, 21, and 7, and everything else. Anyways, great article by NerdWallet, not sponsored, of course, because they're too big for me. But maybe one day they'll sponsor me. Who knows? If you are at NerdWallet, please feel free to reach out to me at Fridge Financials on Instagram. Anyways, back to what we're doing here. So, family trips probably going to be, or might not be affordable in the next 5 years for people like us. You know, it's not just people like you, it's people like me too, because I'm also middle class. So, you know, if you think about going on a vacation, put some money aside, you know, start planning ahead of time. Buying out, you know, maybe a year in advance is where you get the best deals usually for things. Don't do it last minute because you're paying a hefty premium for it. New cars. I think new cars, we kind of already can establish that new cars are always going to get more and more expensive. And they obviously make some really good points in this article here. Safety features, you know, the technology that are in these cars these days compared to back in 2000s, like the early 2000s and even mid 2000s. Again, they have a lot more safety features to try to make it be more safe for people to drive in. They also have autonomous technology. So Tesla has, like, you know, the self-driving and all those kind of things there. As well, all the technology and EV batteries. We know that we're trying to push towards an eco-friendly environment where we can have more electric vehicles, hybrid vehicles, but again, that comes at a price. You want to buy a new electric vehicle like a Tesla, you're looking at least $30-something thousand minimum $30-something thousand. Rivians are electric vehicles, more expensive. Prius, you know, all the hybrid you're looking at, and all the vehicle companies that are making electric vehicles, they're putting all this technology in, but they got to factor out, you know, they got to factor in those technology pieces into their prices, which causes their prices to increase. I just paid off my car. If you didn't see it, I posted it on Instagram. I paid off my car early. I bought it in 2019. My car payment was like $339-ish a month, give or take. And the average car payment now in 2024 is like $700 or $800, something crazy like that. So just a matter of 5 years, your average car payment has gone like absolutely through the roof because people obviously can't afford more of it up front, so they got to finance it out long term and everything else. So, and if you don't believe it, again, here's some data behind it because obviously I'm just one person, but here's the St. Louis Fed tracking the consumer price index for new vehicles in the U.S. city average. As you can see, it's really interesting because it's about 30 years in the making here. It's kind of been like up and down, a little up and down, and you get this huge spike. Here's pandemic, huge spike, you know, supply and demand issues. Again, maybe the push towards electric vehicles has also been impacting that. Inflation obviously impacts all of this. This is for new vehicles in the U.S. city average. You're like, oh, Fridge, I'm going to just buy a used vehicle. New and used vehicles, this is your CPI data for new and used vehicles. Not much better right now. Again, at a very, very high price right now for these vehicles. And if this continues in the next 5 years, you probably won't be able to afford a car if it keeps going at this rate here. Obviously, things will change over the time with rate cuts possibly and everything else, but just things to consider if you're looking at getting a new car. Start putting some money aside. Again, don't put it aside in a bank account with 0.1%. look for a high yield savings account, get a couple percent back on it so you can get some interest at least. So that way, with inflation factored in, you're not losing as much money and losing as much buying power. So again, new cars, definitely a thing. Private school tuition is the third thing they have on the list here. And as much as it's a little vague. I don't know if they mean like private school as in like private school for college or private school like high school or whatever it is. But just so we're all on the same page here, I think we all are for college tuition. It just continues to get more and more expensive as the years and years go on. Between housing, between food, between like all those things there. And again, tuition is just always going to be more expensive because people want to pay for, a better education for their child. This is just college inflation statistics if you want to look at it. As you can see, a really, really collapsed here because of the pandemic, and they were trying to keep people around here. But now we're starting to see there's a little bit of an uptick, so getting a little bit nervous about that one. This chart right here is very interesting. The CPI, which tracks your inflation for market goods like food and gas, is at 35% increase from 2001 to 2021 in 20 years. Your average public college tuition is double that almost. It's beating the household income. It's beating the home price. It is literally the highest bar here. Absolutely insane. Again, I don't know if this article is focusing on private school tuition like college or high school level, but just to bring the perspective of if you're planning on putting a kid through college, start to put some money aside for it. You can do a 529 college savings plan. That's definitely one of those ones that's like a tax deferred and everything else that makes your life a little bit better. But definitely we already know that college tuition is like increasing. We had a little bit of a dip off right around here, but we're going to probably see some increase happening over the time. Just like you can see right here. So I wasn't sure which one they were saying by that one, so I'm kind of covering both. Mostly college. I think all of us more familiar that college is more expensive. Home ownership and real estate. I think that one is very, very, very self-explanatory. Real estate always continues to increase over the years. Obviously, with the pandemic, when the rates were low, home prices were high because people were able to borrow more and able to buy more. So they're able to buy houses with a like 2% interest or 2% mortgage or 3%, even like 1%. It could even be 0%, depending on what was going on with that one. I don't think that I saw 0%. I think it's like 1 or 2 usually. But home ownership obviously makes it harder. And they brought this really interesting point in that I was trying to figure out what they meant by it. The recent adjustment to property tax laws, such as those prompted by Proposition 19 in California, the potential changes to the unified credit against estate and gift taxes, there's a real concern that owning and passing down real property will become increasingly challenging for the middle class. So I thought, let me just look up Proposition 19 and see what the heck this dude's even talking about, because I've never even heard of this before. And essentially what it is that it's a amendment that imposes new limits on property tax benefits for inherited family property. Usually there's benefits to where if say a family loved one has like a house and they, pass away or they want to gift it to you, they can gift it to you and you can save a lot of money. You don't get as much tax on it because it's deemed as a gift. With this new proposition here, they made that much more challenging. Under Proposition 19, a child or children may keep the lower property tax base only if the property is the principal residence of the parents and the child or children make it their principal residence within 1 year. So this is just in the state of California right now, but basically what this is talking about is that you have to make it your primary residence within a year. So if your mom, your dad, someone gives you a house in California, you have to basically make it your primary residence within 1 year of the gift. And also, you can only gift properties that are principal residence of the parents. So if your parents have multiple houses, like a vacation house, you can't gift the vacation house because it's not your primary residence. Your primary residence is what you're able to gift. You can still gift it, but this is the only way you can get lower property taxes from a gift. Now, I know this is just California, and I'm in Connecticut, but you never know what other states might adopt something similar to this. You never know. So that also is not going to help with keeping houses in the family without paying higher taxes and everything else. So that's what he was referring to as, which I think is really interesting. And that's why he said it's increasingly challenging to pass down real estate property, unless it's the primary residence, of course. Healthcare. Healthcare is just insane. So again, why are Americans paying for more healthcare? As you can see here, healthcare is just dramatically increasing, year over year, month over month, decade over decade. Healthcare just becomes more and more expensive, more and more. But the reason why also someone brings it up is that it's an aging population. If we have more and more healthcare, if you have more and more advancements in medicine and those kind of things, people can stay alive longer. People stay alive longer, they need more and more healthcare. And that's where those more expenses come into play, because when you're older, you spend more on healthcare, right? Since people 65 over on average spend more on healthcare and This is what, where was it? This is what I thought was like, I was like, oh my God, this is so stupid, but it's data. We're looking at reality here, right? Why increasing healthcare costs matter. If it would be one thing if high healthcare spending led to better health outcomes. However, that is not the case in the United States. Look at this. Average life expectancy. As you increase your healthcare, U.S. is one of the highest. We're also have one of the fewer average life expectancies. Like, what? You can even, let's zoom in on this. Look at this. Look at these charts. Here's the U.S., one of the highest, if not the highest, healthcare spending per capita. It's like $13,000 per person. But the average expectancy is on the lower end. Overweight and obesity rate, highest spending on the higher end of obesity. Infant mortality rate, again, on the higher end of, all these other data points here from all these other different countries. Diabetes, same thing. Like, we're increasing healthcare costs, but it's not benefiting us from these charts. Look at, like, your expectancy should be like, I feel like if we're paying the most, we should be up in the 80s. We're not even in the 80s for this. Now, this is from 2024. I mean, this is from 2023 to say, copyright 2024, but this is from 2023 of last year. This is recent data. You're telling me that our healthcare is one of the highest, if not the highest in the whole world, and yet our average life expectancy is lower? What are we spending this money on? That's why people always say the healthcare here is insane, and the prices just keep going up until there's any kind of, control over the regulation or regulating this, which I don't know will ever happen. But it's absolutely insane. So with healthcare costs going up, of course, it's just going to be, you got to plan for it, especially when it comes to retiring and you're not on like an employer healthcare plan anymore. You got to make sure you have some money aside for it. Leisure and travel, we talked about. So I don't know why it's 7. It should be 6 because this is kind of like the same thing. Safe investments for retirees. So again, traditionally, bonds and fixed income have been seen as cornerstones of a retiree's portfolio, providing both income and stability. However, with interest rates at historic lows and inflation on the rise, so the real returns of these investments may not keep the pace with inflation. Now, you're talking about things like bonds. Bonds, people flood to bonds and flood to dividend income and dividend, stocks when they're at their early parts of retiring, if not about to retire, because that provides passive income. It's also less risky. A lot of the dividend stocks have a lot less risk to them, but there's not as much growth that goes with it. Bonds is kind of the same thing. Again, it's a guaranteed return, but at the same time, it's a fixed return. So if the market does 10%, you're already locked in your bond at 5%. You're missing out on that 5% difference here. But just kind of put it in perspective, like especially with dividends. So I did dividend investing, and I didn't think it was a bad thing to do. But with me being 28 years old, I resold my portfolio and changed everything up. And that was because my growth potential was not there. I was collecting, I think, about like a 3% yield, which again, 3% on $100,000 is about $3,000 here. I was thinking about a 3% yield on it, which isn't too bad, but if the stock market's returning 10% and my stocks only gave me an extra like 3%, I'm still down. You want to try to at least be on pace or on track with the stock market, if not be able to beat it, But if you think about this, like with dividend yields, dividends again focuses on just your paying out, companies payouts to the shareholders for owning their companies. But the thing is that the higher the yield goes, the more of a riskier asset you are investing in. So right now, inflation, if it was at like 4% right now, or historically it's like 3.5%, whatever it is, if you have your entire retirement invested in a 3% portfolio, your money's not gaining anything. You might even be losing it if inflation is like 4% because you're only getting 3% return. So this is those things I talk about where it's fixed income, and you have to be careful with that one and start to plan about trying to get, that 10% return. 10% return is factoring in for inflation will help you stay afloat longer for retirement. So I just, looking through all this, you want to try to have a diversified portfolio with both growth and protection. So have some growth in there, also have some protection like dividends, have a little bit of a diversification. That way you cover every basis. So that way, no matter what the market outcome is, you are set and good to go for retirement. So yeah. Hopefully you guys learned something new in today's video. This is insane, some of the things I knew, like I knew about, new cars, tuition, real estate, healthcare, the retirement, the safe investment one for me is like the one that was kind of like, okay, that's kind of terrifying a little bit for retiring, especially. But and family trips, I had no idea about either because I don't do a lot of vacations. But it's hopefully bringing some perspective to you. You know, if you're looking at getting any of these kind of things here, make sure you're putting some money aside. Be smart financially. Follow Fridge Financials, of course. Not a financial advisor, but definitely has some great financial content. I am biased, of course. But again, start planning for the future, and just be careful with whatever it is you're doing with your finances, because you never know what's going to happen and what the next title might be for this article in the next 5 years. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you sweated it out like I did, because it's nerve-wracking to read some of this stuff here. Again, if you made this far in the video, it's a 20-minute video. Make sure that you smash the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, leave any feedback you have, any comments, questions, anything you got down below. And if you've still watched this video and you are not subscribed, please tell me why you're not, because I want to know what I can do to do better. I hope you guys are making money in the market as usual, and I will see you guys in the next video.